Okay, so we are ready to start with the second presentation. It will be given also by someone from Poland. It will be given also about Shiny. I am really happy that Mikołaj is going to have this presentation because I met him a year ago during the hackathon in Warsaw. And in 6 hours, they managed to create an app that allows you to track your tram or bus and to have it on time. And they did it in 6 hours and they won the hackathon. So yeah, now he's talking about Shiny. I'm eager to hear about this. Yeah. Let's welcome him.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Mikołaj, and there is my colleague Mateusz, who will be here in a minute. And so we are from the Advanced Computing and Data Science Lab, and we work for Pearson. So Pearson is an educational company, the largest educational company in the world. So what is like to be an educational company? It's like nowadays it's almost exclusively focused on delivering digital products. So it's purely a digital educational company nowadays. And we are going to talk today about the project that involved a really heavy use of Shiny, and about what we've learned from running this project, and about some pitfalls and things that went wrong, and some things hopefully you'll learn something from this. So this is how the product looks like. So it's like an online learning platform. This is a higher ed learning platform. We are during this project we focused exclusively on the higher ed market. So Pearson have a large number of such platforms. So this is one of them. So you can imagine like a platform for running a course, higher ed course. So there is a teacher who creates a course, and there are some learners who participate in a course and do some exercises, do some homeworks, and some other activities, and this is all managed, and this is all online. So this is how it looks like. And the project is called Unified Content Analytics Framework, and so the aim of the entire project is to enable product teams to actually be able to implement, run and make a new product edition in the standardized, quick, and efficacious way. So what do we mean by product editions? So, there are some new editions of the books. So we are making our content better and better, and so this is a framework to be able to do that quickly, efficiently, and in a standardized manner, because nowadays, and before this project, so various teams did this a bit differently, so this was not standardized, and sometimes there was some room to make it even more efficacious. Okay, so why this is hard? This is hard particularly because Pearson have many platforms, really many platforms, and even a single platform is divided into disciplines. So you have physics books on a platform, chemistry books, biology, etc. There are hundreds of books on a single platform, and books are divided further into chapters, sections, exercises, videos. All of this is really a multi-level data, and this is a huge volume of data that we have. Just to give you a picture of a single platform that we've used to make this prototype. So it have 16 million learners, 4 million exercises, and 10 billion activity submissions. So it's also quite challenging because it has many stakeholders, because the entire framework would be used by book authors, book editors, content developers. So they would need to look at the single pieces of the content, so at the quality of the videos, of the exercises, but they would look at it from a different angle. So they need some different views to be able to do what they need to do efficiently, but also for the portfolio managers. So imagine that you are a manager and you are responsible for 30 books. So you want to quickly have an overview, which one performs better, which one is maybe a bit worse, which one needs some fixings in the first place. So this really tries to solve the problem for many users. So we decided that we need to create an app, as a self-serve tool, that will be a part of this framework. And we decided to choose Shiny, and mostly because we are familiar with the technology, but also Shiny seemed to be very good for quick prototyping. So if you know Shiny, you are able to very quickly code something, show something to others, get feedback, and tweak it. Also, at the starting point, we didn't know if the prototype would be productionalized, so we didn't know if we would get the necessary buy-in to actually scale it up. So Shiny was actually quite good just to make the prototype. So I will give you a quick demo of how it looks like. Are you able to see that? I might just make it a bit bigger. So users are really guided through the app. So this is the main screen, and the only thing you can do is actually to select a discipline. So you can select, probably you don't see it, but it's biology, chemistry, all these kind of disciplines. So I'll select biology. And the app actually asks you if you would like to see a tutorial first, because this should serve many users, and we finally won't know who really logs in. There will be many people, so it needs really like a very good guidance. So you can actually answer yes and see the tutorial, and there is a walkthrough through each part of the screen that you see. So you can just read the descriptions and get your head around what's in here and what to do next. Yeah, and so I would also say that all the data that you see here is anonymized, so all the numbers and all the titles on all those things are just made up. So just for the sake of this presentation. So what you see here is a list of titles. So you have books, and you have some basic information like how many learners are using it, when it was published. But also this metric is very important. This is called content health. And this is a single metric that actually aggregates really a lot of things into one single number that is put on a scale for 0 to 100 and even color-coded for easier interpretation. So you can actually sort the books by the health and see the conditions, so which one performs better and which one performs a bit worse. So for example, the first one, it has like 56 by 100, so it's just an average. It probably it needs some improvement. So if you click this, you'll see the list of chapters. They also have the content health, the same metric, but for a chapter. And if you drill down further, you have a section with the same metrics and a list of items. And if you click an item, it would load you the item view. Again, you can see the tutorial. I would just skip it. But you have all the essential things you need that fits a single screen, and everything is color-coded. So if you are an editor, you can quickly get around on what could be improved in this particular exercise by quickly looking at the red blocks that have the tooltips. If you are more curious, you can get actual numbers and get more descriptions. But you have everything on a single screen, even the preview of the item. So you have everything at a glance. So this is how it looks like. I will get back to the deck. So how we did it, basically what technologies we used. So we used Shiny, basically, but the essential packages was DT and formattable. So this is a really great package for rendering tables. We used Plotly for making visualizations, and we used Intro.js. This is the package that was used to make those tutorials. It's really great. And we also used Shiny.js for invoking custom JavaScript code directly from R, and Shiny widgets to make some input look a bit slicker. And also some other Shiny features. We used modals just to inform users what is going on. Some pop-ups sometimes occur in the app. And we use the custom drill down. So the thing you see, when you click a table, another table opens up, and you click the next table, and another table opens up. So this is actually doable in Shiny, but this is pretty nice thing. And also, we made a heavy use of modules, just to keep the code clean and just to be able to divide our work between us more easily. We also used JavaScript events for loading, and we used a lot of custom CSS and JavaScript code to actually make the app look as you've seen. And a nice thing also, just apart from Shiny, is a local storage. So we stored the value, informing you if user actually have seen the tutorial or not. So we can give him a prompt only if he hadn't seen it yet. So this is also quite nice. And now I will pass it to my colleague Mateusz.
So, okay, in this next segment of our presentation, we would like to tell you about the issues that we encountered and what we have learned. So let's go with the first one. The initial prototype that you have seen contained only a fraction of data, and as Mikołaj showed you, in Pearson we have a lot of data, and we weren't sure if Shiny will be able to handle these amounts of data. But we discovered that it is possible, but we needed to change the app architecture. Initially, the application stored all the necessary data, and it was in raw format, and we just processed it on the fly. But we decided that it would be not efficient with the larger volumes of data, so we decided to create a separate Postgres instance of database and use Shiny just to query this database and to request the data that it needs at the moment. The second thing that we considered as the more and more users started to use our app was if we will be able to serve all those users. And the answer to this question is also positive, but there was also some experimentation involved with technologies like Docker and Shiny Proxy. The third thing was as the more and more users used our app, they all came with their own ideas of what could be added to this application. And we were initially unsure if we will be able to serve all those needs. But it turns out that Shiny is very flexible. You can even extend it with JavaScript, CSS, just as Mikołaj said. So we think that almost anything is possible to do with Shiny. But you must be prepared that sometimes you will need to employ a lot of hacks to do something that would be easier in other technologies. Last but not least, we wanted our app to be illuminating and useful, because in the history of our company, probably hundreds of dashboards were created, and many of them are not used or are rarely used, and we wanted to avoid this fate for our application. So instead of guessing of what would be comprehensible for our users, we decided to employ usability testing methodology that is used in the web development kind of framework. And we observed we just created on each phase of the prototype, we presented it to our users and observed them how they interact with our application. And I would like to share with you now some insights that we gained. So this is the first example, and on the left side of the screen you can see how it looked before, and on the right hand how it looks right now. So initially we thought that it would be a good idea to split our app into two parts, and one would serve the just high-level overview of it, and the second one will give you more details. And this screen that enables you to choose which version of the app would you like to explore would be one of the initial screens that the user clicks through, and based on his decision we would show them the version of the app that he requested. And it turned out to be a bad idea, firstly because it created another screen that user needed to click through, and secondly, our users didn't grasp this idea that well. It was harder for them to navigate through it, and we learned that it is important to have some kind of menu that will show the user where are they currently and where they can go next. Secondly, this lowest level view that Mikołaj showed you that contains the statistics and charts about the item. Initially, we created it as detailed as possible. So there was a lot of numbers there, charts, and it turned out that it is too overwhelming for our users. And they quickly became frustrated that they don't understand everything from it. And it was split into two tabs, and we discovered that people rarely go to this second tab because they are so focused on this first one. So we decided to merge those two tabs into one and just present them all the necessary information in as streamlined format as possible. And I think the lesson that we learned from it that you should be mindful of cognitive load that you put on your users and present them just enough information for them to make the decision, because too much of if you present too much, they will not find it useful and they will quickly get discouraged. Third thing that we learned is that nobody read our description, basically. We tried to detail it as much as possible, but if somebody has seen this long description that you barely see on the left, they didn't really read it, so we tried to make it as short as possible. And you can see it on this slide, but we try to give the interpretation of the statistic in the first sentence. So even if they don't read it if they read the first sentence, they will have some understanding of what the statistic is showing them. So to sum up this usability testing part of our presentation, I think it is we learned a lot during the whole process, and we acquired better understanding of our users and what is comprehensible for them, and we were better able to tailor our application to their needs. And looking on this project from a perspective, we initially was pretty pumped that we'll be creating this application and we'll be using Shiny. But as the time passed, our enthusiasm slightly decreased because we needed to employ more and more hacks. And also another crisis happened when we suddenly needed to scale this application. But as we found solutions to our problems, we regained some of this enthusiasm, and I think we now have more objective view of Shiny. And we think that first of all, Shiny is a great tool for prototyping, and we think that you can do incredible things with it, but you must be prepared that it will sometimes involve a lot of hacks, and you will need to think creatively, and sometimes it will be easier to do something in other programming language, but if you stick with Shiny, you will probably be successful. And also you need to think your design of this app or architecture well, because it will sometimes need to be adjusted to your needs. And the second main important lesson is that we think that you should always think about users. It seems obvious, but only after we ran this usability test, we truly understood what is useful and comprehensible for our users. And I think that you should try it. It is not hard, and I think it has a potential to make your application better. And we think that it is also worthwhile to get accustomed with this methodology, so we gave you 2 titles here that we think are worth visiting. And lastly, we started our blog. It contains only 1 entry right now, but we will be updating it soon. So we recommend you check it out, and you can learn more about things we do. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much for this very interesting talk. We have time for a few questions. So who is going to start?
Hi, thank you for your interesting talk. You very quickly mentioned that you can scale Shiny very well if you take the right approach. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, so I think there are 2 parts. So first part is how to fit this amount, like huge amount of data into the app. So the approach we took was taking the data out of Shiny. So we are running a Postgres database that holds this huge amount of data, and we are using Shiny more like a front-end layer to this database. But initially, like, it's easy to transform this, because you can prototype on a small amount of data in Shiny pretty quickly, but then you need to be able to be prepared to actually move it somewhere else. So now it works on a Postgres database. And the second thing is the number of users that you can serve. So if you just put up a Shiny server, that won't work very well for a big number of users. But there are some technologies that allows you to do that. So a free thing is the thing called Shiny Proxy. So it actually spins a single Docker container for each user that starts the app. The solution is also to run a Shiny server probably, right? But this is a paid solution. So this is so depending on, you need to be prepared to do something more than just deploying your app on shinyapps.io, because if you want to serve like hundreds of thousands, that won't work probably, or be very costly. Yeah.
Are you scaling using Shiny Proxy?
Yes.
Okay. And the fact that it's a separate Docker for every user isn't a problem for you?
Not really. So the question was if we are scaling use. Yeah. So okay. So the question was, so are we using Shiny Proxy finally? And if it's not a problem to use Docker containers, and up to now we are using this, and up to now no, it's not a problem.
No, so because the Shiny Proxy starts a new container
Yes.
for every new user. So basically,
You have a lot of containers. Yes. So you need to have like a quite powerful machine anyway, but it's easier to to kind of parallelize the thing. So you can easily extend it. You can just spin another machine that would be spinning containers and make some. So that's actually that's doable. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on the machine? So like how much machine power you need for, I don't know, let's say 60 users?
Well, it's not that powerful. I think that So we are running everything in the cloud. So this is still on the stage where we have not hit the design number of users. We have just run some tests, but it works pretty well with some like 20 or 40 containers on a AWS machine that has 4 cores and 8 gigs of RAM. It also depends on how your app is designed, because it consumes resources. So yeah. So does that answer the question?
Yes, thanks so much.
No problem.
Yes. Hi.
Sure.
So thanks for the nice presentation. Just quick question regarding the usability. How did you track the user behavior within the app?
Could you repeat?
Yeah, how did you track the user behavior within your Shiny app?
Okay, so we do it like a couple of ways. So during the usability tests, so the methodology is that you actually take a person, you put the person on the chair, and you actually watch the person playing with your app. So at the beginning, the person does the free roam, so she clicks through and kind of like getting around, and then we are giving her tasks to actually could you do that, and see how she's achieving this particular task. But we also have Google Analytics, so we have custom events that are triggered on the table click, the button clicks. So we know that as well. And we are recording the screen while doing usability tests to actually be able to review it later. So it's quite easy, and you actually do this only for a couple of people, because it's not really, the usability tests are not to be done for 200 people probably. Not at this, maybe at some point, but not for this.
Yeah, we found out that 3 persons is usually enough per some prototype, because after that, their suggestions are repeating. And
yeah, so the thing is that if you really think that you know what your users needs and how they would behave, you're wrong. Basically, because you can take 2 or 3 people and they will prove it desperately that you designed it poorly, because that was what our experience is. So we thought we thought our initial thing was brilliant. It's so intuitive. it was not.
Okay, so last question.
It's more information. It's Roger Bivand. I've been editor-in-chief of the R Journal, and our policy now is not to accept Shiny papers unless they have a user survey. So that I think you're going in exactly the right direction by looking at what new users need and how they actually benefit from using your app. Because we've seen quite a lot of submissions where people say, hey, I've got this cool app. And really, that we don't know whether their experience will transfer to other people, so that a user survey is a very sensible thing to do, even if it's just a forum group, if it's just talking to people. And in a systematic way so that you know what they expect, what you need to tell them if what you're providing is not what they expect, and then a survey afterwards to see whether they got it. So that I think is important at the moment. Sorry?
How many users?
You need to make the effort. Because it's a bit like a reproducible question, right? So that when you go through the thought process of do I really understand what my users want, that helps a lot just to begin with. So that we want to provoke people submitting papers to the journal who are using Shiny, that they need to show that they've looked at the users. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So thank you for this very interesting presentation. We have time for coffee, so we can talk with these guys during the coffee. Let's thank them again.